Hello lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be doing a training video and I will be training Ghost today and maybe a few other of my Halloween horses because I want my horses that are Halloween horses to be as trained as possible by the end of Halloween. So yeah, that is what we're up to today. And today's theme for the video is going to be ghost stories. So I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about my personal stories or like scary stories that have happened to me. And if we have time, I might go on to tell a scary story of what happened to one of my friends. So here we go. So we will go ahead and start with one of my scary stories. So actually a lot of my scary stories have to do with going to church camp, which is really interesting. Because of privacy reasons and legality reasons, I'm not going to mention what church camps or who are really involved in these scary stories. I just don't feel comfortable sharing somebody else's story, like if they're not comfortable with their name being said. So I'm just going to go ahead and give you my version of the story without those names and without the church camp's names being said. So, I am a little bit laggy, it looks like, because there's so many people on for the update. So, one day I went to a church camp, and so this actually, we had gone to other church camps in the past, and I actually didn't have, like, very good, how do you say, track records with church camps. Not that I did anything wrong, just like every single church camp that I had either gone to either had something really weird happen at it or was just like super cult like, and I wasn't comfortable with that. And so I went to these church camps with my church. And so when I went to this church camp, it actually was really nice and I actually really liked it. It was really pretty. They had a beautiful, like, forested area. The bathrooms were really nice. The rooms were really nice. The pool that they had was really nice. Although, it was like, you had to take, like, a test to go to the deep end of the pool. To, like, you had to prove that you could swim back and forth to be able to go to, like, diving, on the diving board or, like, do any of, like, types of deep end stuff, which I think was really good because it kept us safe. But so when I went to this church camp, we went with another church, and I had never met anybody from this church before. But I did make a really good friend with my other friends that I had gone to a church. We'll just call her Amy. Yeah, we'll just call her Amy. So me and my other friends were really getting close with Amy, and Amy seems a little bit different. She was very, very religious. I mean, like, we were religious too, but she was, like, one of those people who, like, never cusses, never wore anything but, like, really, like, non-revealing clothing. Her parents didn't want her to wear shorts, stuff like that. Like, just really, really strict, which there's no problem with that. Like, if that's how you guys believe you should live your life like that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But she was, we didn't do that type of stuff in where I came from. We weren't as religious. We believed in God, and we read the Bible, and, you know, we had our own personal relationships with God. And I didn't believe that I had to dress a certain way or be a certain way for God to love me as his child. So that's just kind of like my belief system. And that's just my belief system. If you guys don't agree with that, that is completely fine, completely your prerogative. I completely understand. I hate this portal. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this race with this stupid portal here. So we always like to go, like, there were certain times out of the day that you went swimming, and we always like to go swimming like 1 to like 3 because we had no like gospel learning, we had no song time or like free time at any other part of our days. And Amy also had the same times we did because she was rooming in the same dorms and her church had also came with us. So while we were there, I noticed that Amy had a really hard time swimming. She had done the test and she had passed, like, barely, but she had to wear a bracelet. Like, you wore a bracelet, like, saying how strong of a swimmer you were. She wore a bracelet. There were green bracelets for people who were not allowed to swim in the deep end. There were yellow bracelets for people who, like, could swim in the deep end, but, like, had to be really careful. And then there were red bracelets for people who could swim in the deep end without any problem. Me and my friends had red bracelets. Amy had a yellow bracelet, and we actually one time Amy had asked us if we would stay up with her and go swimming at night, which was completely against the rules, and do not ever break rules like this. But we were like, oh, we're not really sure about that. We don't want to break the rules. And she said, come on, stay up with me. I want you guys to go with us. And we actually decided not to go with Amy because we really didn't think that was a good idea. And so Amy said, like, whatever, she wasn't going to go either. She would just stay in the dorm with us. And we said, okay, like, we felt more comfortable doing that. And so we thought that Amy was going to stay with us all night. So we had fallen asleep. I was probably about 13 during this time. I stopped going to this church around the age of 16 for just other reasons. Nothing wrong with the church, just personal reasons, and my parents didn't really go anymore, and it just wasn't the best situation for me to go to that church. I'm really tired of this lag, and it's actually making me pretty angry, so it better stop. Anyway, so when we went to this church, we were, like, really told not to do, like, anything like that, like, go, like, out at night. You weren't supposed to be out past curfew, to this church camp, and Amy always seemed like she really wanted to break the rules. She wanted to go out past 10 o'clock. When they would come around and, like, check us to make sure that our lights were off, like, our lights had to be off. We all had to be going to bed. If we were up and talking, we would get in trouble. The only thing I didn't like about that place was, like, the big strict rules about curfew. And Amy always wanted to stay up. Amy always wanted to go do something. We just didn't think that it was a good idea. And so the next morning, we woke up and Amy wasn't there. We couldn't find her. And we were starting to get worried. We thought maybe she got up early, went out or something, got lost. Like, we're in a forested area. If you don't follow the path, it's really easy to get lost. And so we were just really confused on where she was. We ended up telling our camp counselor, which happened to be somebody from that church camp, and it was one person from that church camp and then another person from our church were camp counselors. And we told them, and we'll just call them L and M. So L and M were really confused on where Amy was. They put out an all call, like we're missing a person. We were trying to find her. They couldn't find her anywhere. Like, everybody, like, they had walkie-talkies. Everybody was saying, like, they couldn't find her. Like, she wasn't with their group, or she wasn't here, she wasn't there. And so we went around and, like, we were looking for her, and we could not find her. And at one point, we decided to just keep going on with our day. Like, we were worried, but, like, we figured she was just somewhere, like, off with somebody, and they just hadn't found her yet. So when it was time for us to go to the pool, we actually went about 20 minutes early, which is, like, it opened at, like, we usually went to 1 to 3, and I think it opened at, like, 12:30. We decided to go early, and we were one of the first groups there with one of the lifeguards, which was also a camp counselor. When we got there, I saw Amy, and so did two of my other friends. We saw Amy standing on the diving board, and we were like, oh my gosh, like, Amy, we're so happy that you're here. Like, how are you? And she didn't answer. And she was still in her night clothes, which was, like, little, like, she had pajamas on. She had short pajama pants on, and they had, like, polka dots on them. And the reason why was because it's really hot. It wasn't cold at night. It was really hot. It was during the summer. And she still had on, like, her t-shirt that she had worn that night. And we were like, Amy, like, what are you doing here? Why aren't you in your swimsuit? And, like, we went up to talk to her, and our camp counselor was like, what are you doing? And we're like, what do you mean? And they're like, why are you talking to Amy? Like, Amy isn't here. And we're like, what are you talking about? She's on the diving board. Like, she looks like she's getting ready to jump in. We're trying to talk to her. We're like, Amy, why aren't you answering us? And our camp counselor was like, you guys are crazy. There is nobody there. And we were, like, really, like, what are you talking about? We saw her, and then, like, I had turned around to tell the camp counselor, like, you're being insane. Stop joking around. Amy's right there. And I turned back around, and she was gone. And we couldn't see her anymore. And we were all kind of really freaked out. I actually got really scared. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this isn't funny. I told the camp counselor, like, stop joking around. This isn't funny. The camp counselor at the time was probably about 17, 18. And she was like, what, like, what's, like, basically, like, what's with the attitude? Like, we don't know what you're talking about. Like, nobody is there. And my friends and me got really, really, really scared. And so we're still not sure where Amy was after it. Like, we decided not to go swimming that day, and we didn't know where Amy was. And we kept asking her church members, like, where she was. They said that they had found her, but they had sent her home because she had broken the rules. And we were like, what do you mean? Like, where did you find her? They, like, wouldn't answer our questions. And they just kept saying, like, yeah, like, we sent her home early. Our church is actually going to leave soon. Like, their church left, like, a whole, like, week and a half early. And all the other churches stayed at this church camp. We were all very confused. We had heard that the swimming pool was shut down. We didn't know why. We weren't allowed to swim for the rest of the summer. And another one of my friends said that she had seen a police officer there. So I don't know what happened to Amy. I don't know if Amy, I don't know who Amy, like, her last name was or anything. So I couldn't look her up. I didn't know who she was. Nobody would tell us, like, what had happened to her, like, where she was, why she, like, didn't continue going, to the church camp, why she had, decided to go home early, and why this church camp had decided to go home early, and why this pool was closed. If you guys want my personal opinion, and okay, I should probably disclaimer this. These stories are not, like, my videos are not for younger individuals. It's restricted that way. Like, if you're young, you're not supposed to be watching these videos. This is kind of like an adult content. This is like a scary story. But if you want my personal opinion, I do not think that Amy ever went home. I think that maybe Amy had decided that night to actually still go to the swimming pool. And I think that either she got hurt at the swimming pool and people had found her later, or she had sadly passed away at the swimming pool. And I don't know what had ever happened to Amy. We never did find out. We never went to that church camp again. And after that, I don't think I ever went to church camp again. I stopped going. My parents told me that they didn't want me going anymore, and they never told me why. So I think that something really bad happened, and I don't think that that was Amy we saw on the diving board. I think that we saw something, but I don't think that it was Amy. It just really just made no sense. And so that's, like, my first scary story about a friend of mine that went missing that, like, wasn't, like, we weren't really close to her, but yeah, it was still really scary. And ever since then, like, I've been, like, really nervous about going, like, to church camps and stuff. So that's the first story I have. The second story I had is kind of like a funny, goofy story, but it has to do with kind of a spooky creature. This story is also about a church camp, and this story has to do with a spider. Which is, like, if you guys know anything about me on this channel, you guys have heard I do not like spiders. Hate them, terrified of them. I can't kill them either, because I feel like if I try to kill them, I'm gonna miss, and somehow they're gonna, like, come and jump on me or something and try to, like, attack me. I know that that's probably the likelihood of that happening probably isn't, like, very, but I don't like spiders. They terrify me. So, one day we went to, this is a different church camp, disclaimer, different church camp, same church that I went with. We actually ended up hating this church camp. And the reason being is because it was very strict. Like, it wasn't just strict on curfew like this other church camp. It was strict on, like, you couldn't go anywhere until these times. Like, everything was like, you couldn't go here, you had to do this, you had to do this. I also got stung by a bee at this church camp. Also, that's how I found out I was allergic to bees. Not a very good time for me, personally. Also, it was just, yeah, the church camp just wasn't really fun. The food was disgusting. Yeah, it was just not a very good church camp. We didn't really have any fun there. We actually left a whole, like, 4 days early, and it was supposed to be, like, a 7-day church camp. We left early. We decided not to go, like, anymore. The guys were super disappointed that we had to leave, but the girls were like, we're done with this place. So, really cool thing, my brother, my brother, I'll go ahead and say his name, my brother Jason, was one of the guy counselors for this church, camp. Funny story about my brother, he actually went into the military, but he wanted to be a pastor at one point, but he decided to go into the military instead. So, at the time, he was one of the church counselors, and then, so the same person from our last story, Elle, was also a church counselor still, too. So when we went to this church camp, we had never gone before, and we ended up not liking it. But one of the big reasons we didn't like it was because the dorm rooms we were staying in, it was like a little cabin, and they were like bunk beds, and then there was this little bed in the middle of the bunk bed room, and it was just like this little, like, so if you guys have ever seen like little like iron bed bars like that, like hold up the bed, like bed posts, that's what this was. It was just the bed frame. It was just iron posts for the bed frame. There was no bed on it, and so that was just in the middle. And we actually, like, it was a really scary place. It was in the middle of nowhere. You had to go up this huge, huge steep hill. I mean, like, so steep that, like, it was hard to walk up at this church camp to get to our dorm area. The guys' dorm was across the way, but to get to the girls' dorm area, that's where you had to go to get to this cabin, one of the cabins. The cabin was really run down. The beds were disgusting. I'm surprised we didn't catch like lice or get like poison ivy or anything by the time we were out there. It was actually just terrible, the situation that they put us in living wise. I was really young actually at this time. I think I was like 7 or 8 when I went to this church camp, because my brother would have still been at home, but he would have just been about to go into the military. So my brother and the other boys were somewhere else, but he comes into the story a little bit later. So during our time at this church camp, we really didn't like where we were sleeping, and I actually ended up sleeping. We slept with the older girls in the same bed because we were so scared to sleep in different bunk beds. Me and my other friend, we'll just call her B, because her name starts with a B. So we'll just call her B. We actually I ended up sleeping with an older girl, and so did she, because we just really didn't like the situation we were in, and we were really scared. And we were small enough that we still fit in the twin beds together. So, at some point we come back from, this like round of things and have like a little bit of a break in our dorm or like our cabin. And during this, we were talking, and all of a sudden, one of our church counselors, which is, I think I said it was Elle, was like, "What the heck is that? Is that a spider? No, it's way too big to be a spider. It cannot be a spider." And we all look, and next to this bed frame that's in the middle of the room, the big iron bed frame, there is a huge spider. I mean, bigger than my head spider. It was huge. It was green and this brown color. It had so many eyes. It was the biggest spider I've ever seen in my life. It was literally the size of my head. I was so scared. It was bigger than, like, put your hand up right now. It's bigger than your hand. Yeah, my worst flippin' nightmare. Guys, I was terrified. We all were like, "Oh my gosh," and like started screaming, getting on top of like the biggest bunk beds. I was crying because I like am terrified of spiders. I didn't know what to do. I was so scared. Everybody was like just terrified. And so we were like, "What do we do? What do we do?" And we were like, "What do we do?" And then my church counselor looks at me and the other girl that I had been sharing the bed with, and we'll just call her A, looked at me, A, and B, and went, "Go get Jason." I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Go get Jason." Number one, I was not scared to go get my brother. I was scared to go walk past this flippin' spider, okay? I was like, "You want me to walk past that thing?" And she's like, "Yes, go get your brother." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "Yeah." So A actually ends up picking me up to walk past this spider. It was so big. And we ended up, I actually want to go switch horses real quick. Pausing this. Okay, so continuing on. I went and got Pumpkin because he needs to be trained up a little bit also. But so we went to go get my brother, and my brother actually was down by the cantina, which was the canteen where like you get food, and it was literally as soon as you get down this awful hill, we like you go like to the right, like maybe like 2 yards and the canteen's right there. And him and some of the other guys were at the canteen. My brother is probably like, oh gosh, like 18, 19 right now. He's a lot older than I am. I can't remember. I'd have to like do the math and everything. And I just completely missed where I was going, didn't I? And I was like, Jason, like, we need you. And he's like, what do you need? Like, what's going on? Why are you yelling? Calm down. And I was like, there's a huge spider in our room and we can't kill it. And he's like looking at A and B, which A is older, and he's like, are you serious? And she's like, yes, it's huge. It's like the size of your head. And he's like, are you guys like joking with me? And we're like, no, like it's huge. And he's like, you guys are such babies. And he starts making fun of us, and he's like, fine, I'll come kill the itty bitty spider. And we're like, you don't understand. Like, you're in for a rude awakening, dude. Like, this spider's huge. And he's like rolling his eyes at us, and he's like, such girls, like, should have known girls would act like this. And I was like, I'm gonna punch him. But anyway, we're walking up this hill, and my brother, like, is complaining his butt off. He's like, I hate this hill. Why is it so steep? I never want to go up this hill again. And we're like, whatever, Jason, come kill this spider. He picks up a piece of wood as we're walking, I guess to, like, kill the spider or whatever, or to, like, help him up this flippin' hill. When I say it's like a mountain, it's like the steepest thing I've ever walked up. Like, Jason and A, like, had to help me up this hill when we were taking our stuff up. So as we're going, we get inside, and Jason's like, where's the itty bitty spider, girls? And we're like, it's right there. And he goes, oh my gosh, when he sees this huge flippin' spider. And we're like, yeah, Jason, kill the itty bitty spider. Come on, man. Be a man. And something else. So I guess spider fears runs in my family. The only person who can kill spiders without blinking, even my dad sometimes has trouble killing them, is my other older brother. I'm the youngest of 3 brothers. My other older brother. And Jason's not the one that's okay with killing spiders. He can kill a spider, but like I don't think that he thought this spider was gonna be that big. Cause he was like, that's the spider? Like, you guys want me to kill that thing? And we're like, yeah. And he goes, okay. And we're like, come on, Jason, like, kill it, please. And so he hits this spider with this piece of wood. And when I tell you, excuse my language, but all hell broke loose. All hell broke loose, guys. This spider takes off. When I say that this spider acted like nothing hit it, this full-grown male, like 250, probably like 180-pound guy. He was a big, bulky guy. My brother's pretty fit. Excuse me. But when I tell you this guy hits this spider with this piece of wood and a leg falls off and the spider starts running around, I tell you, I thought my life was over. I thought my life had ended. I thought we were all gonna die. I start screaming. All the girls start getting up on the bunk beds again. My brother's chasing the spider around. Like, looking back, it was pretty hilarious. But let me tell you, if I was in that situation right now, I'd be crying. Like, I can't do it. I can't do spiders. And so my brother starts chasing this spider, and we're like, step on it, kill it. And he like literally steps on it at one point. Like, he stomps on it with like one of his feet, and he has boots on. And this spider just keeps running. It loses another leg, and it just keeps going. We're like, what the heck? This spider is like not killable. It's huge. It's deadly. What is going on? He's trying to kill the spider. He keeps hitting it with this piece of wood. It keeps running around. And finally, my brother stomps on this, like takes all his weight, stomps on this spider with both feet, like jumps on it, and then starts beating it, like constantly with this piece of wood. And when I tell you that spider was still twitching when he was done with it, it makes me want to throw up. Like, it was that bad. This spider was huge. So he finally kills it. It stops twitching. He picks it up with the piece of wood, throws it out, and he's like, oh my gosh, like, that was terrifying. We're like, oh my gosh. And he's like, do you guys need anything else? We're like, no, it's good. And so he gets down the hill, right? And me and A run out of this cabin, and we yell Jason when he gets down this hill. And he's like, what? Like, he turns around and he yells back, like, what's wrong? And we're like, it has a brother. Like, there's another one in the room. And he's like, are you serious? And we're like, no. And he's like, oh my gosh. He walks all the way up this hill and he's like, okay, where is it? I'm ready. Where's my piece of wood? And we're like, we were just kidding. We wanted you to come back up the hill because you guys complained about the hill so much. So yeah, that's my other story. Kind of a funny one. Looking back, it was pretty hilarious, but also kind of terrifying for a 7-8-year-old little girl. And probably still for the now 20-year-old girls. I would still be terrified. Still would be crying. It's funny now that I'm not in the situation, but I would still be terrified at this moment. So that's my other story. I think we're going to go ahead until this one's trained up to level 8. I'll go ahead and tell you guys another story. This actually is a scary story from my friend. We'll just call her Stephanie. My friend Stephanie told me this scary story, and I always, she told me it years ago. I probably won't be able to remember all of it, but it was such a scary story, and, it happened to her and her sibling and her mom, and so I wanted to, tell you guys the story also. So, do you guys know those houses that, it's like a townhouse almost, but it's a house, and it's split down the middle, right? And, there's a wall in between, the whole house, and, one family, owns one side, another family owns another. It's kind of like an apartment, townhouse-style house. They used to have a lot more of them back in the day. I don't think that they have a lot of houses like this anymore. They're, more townhouse-style, more apartment-type style. But back in the day, they used to have houses like this. And so my friend Stephanie, her little sister, and her mother were living at one side, and then another family was living on another side. And they had just moved into this split house, and there was an upstairs and a downstairs, and the only thing that the renters said was that they could not move the piano that was down in a foyer area, kind of in a den type area right by the door. They weren't allowed to touch or mess with or move or get rid of the piano that was in that room. That was the only thing the renters said that they could not do. So they moved into this house, and it was pretty good for are you serious? Did you guys see that? I totally jumped that. I totally did. Anyway, so they move into this house, and as they're moving in, they don't mess with the piano or anything, but they're moving stuff in. And after a week or two, Stephanie starts to notice some weird stuff happening at night. So she noticed when she was home alone one time at night that there was weird noises coming from the other side in between this is the wall that splits the house down the middle. She noticed some weird scratching noises on the other side of this wall. And she was like, it's probably just the neighbors. They're probably just messing with us. It's fine. Everything is good. And so she doesn't really worry about it too much. But then as the days goes on, she realizes that her little sister is also starting to sleepwalk. Her little sister starts sleepwalking, and her little sister, at one point she follows her little sister down the stairs while she's sleepwalking, and her little sister starts to sit at the piano and starts to try to play the piano. And the reason why Stephanie realized this is she woke up one day and heard the piano being played. Interesting fact, her sister has never played the piano a day in her life. She is probably at this point 5 or 6 years old. She does not know how to play the piano. But when Stephanie wakes up, she hears her little sister playing the piano perfectly. Not just random notes, an actual song. And she said it was a terrifying song. It was really haunting, had a lot of low tones. I'm a choir person, so I understand what that means. If you don't, it was just really haunting, crunchy notes, kind of like weird notes that don't usually go together, but can make up in a song. So she goes downstairs and she sees her little sister playing the piano. She's like, hey, wake up. She wakes her little sister up. Her little sister's like, where am I? What's going on? And she's like, you're playing the piano. She's like, we're not allowed to play it. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember getting out of bed. What's going on? So she tells her mom that her little sister, her mom works as a nurse, so her mom's gone during the day, and they don't have a father figure in the house, so it's just her and her little sister a lot of times. And she tells her mom one day, my little sister's been sleepwalking at night, have you heard the piano? And she's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about, you were probably dreaming it. And she's like, no, I definitely wasn't, I definitely woke her up. like she was definitely playing the piano. And her mom was like, okay, like you're just like trying to make this freaky. That didn't actually happen. And so the things start getting weirder. At one point, their mom isn't home, and Stephanie is doing the laundry, and it's down a hallway. So their laundry room is at the end of this hallway, okay? And there's doors on either side of the hallway also. So on the left side, it's her room and her mother's room. On the right side, it's a bathroom upstairs, and her sister's room. And also, like if you go like to the end of the hall, the stairs are on your left. So you can go downstairs, and that's when you like, it's like a lofted type area, and that's when like you go to like the den, down to the foyer, and then through the kitchen. All that is downstairs. And so you can see the piano. If you're like standing at the end of the stairs, you can see the piano by the door. So she is doing the laundry one day, and her little sister's playing in her room. And she sees out of the corner of her eye, as she's doing the laundry, the doors are open, that there's a figure moving from her mother's room to her sister's room. And she, like, yells for her sister. She's like, what are you doing? Like, go back to your room. I don't have time to be playing games. And her little sister is like, what are you talking about? And her little sister comes out of the bathroom. Her little sister had used the bathroom, but she had sworn that she saw somebody go in to her little sister's room. And she tells her little sister, like, did you just go into your room? And she was like, no, I've been in the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. And Stephanie goes, is mom, like, she, like, yells, mom, like, is mom home? Her little sister at this point has walked down the hallway to where she is at, passes her room, doesn't look into it, but goes to, like, where Stephanie is and is talking to her. So she's with Stephanie in the laundry room. And, like, she yells, like, mom, is that you? And they start hearing a scratching noise. And she's like, what is that? And her little sister's like, what is that? Like, Stephanie, what's going on? She pushes her little sister behind her and, like, yells her mom's name. It's like, mom, if that's you, this isn't funny. Like, you need to, like, are you in, like, whatever her little sister's name is, like, room? Like, what are you doing? Why are you making that noise? And all of a sudden, her and her little sister see this white, like, figure walk out of her room, turn and face them, and then proceed to walk all the way down the hallway away from them, turns and starts walking down the stairs. Stephanie decides, I would have screamed, called the police, something. No, the scratching noises are starting to get louder, so Stephanie kind of follows the figure with her little sister to the edge of the stairs and watches the figure go down to the end of the stairs, make a right turn, and go to the piano, open the piano, sit down, and start playing this weird music. And the scratching noises are just getting louder. And Stephanie is terrified at this point. She grabs her little sister, runs up to their mother's room, and locks themselves in the room. At this time, there's more of like, there are like little razor phones, but there really isn't like cell phones like touchscreens yet. So she calls her mother on this razor phone, and she yells for her mother, like, you need to come home, there's somebody in the house, like somebody just walked out of like my little sister's room, but my little sister's with me. And they walked downstairs and started playing this piano, and there's scratching noises, and it's just really weird. You need to come home. Her mother rushes home and comes home and like opens her door and says, where are they? Like, where's the person? What's going on? And Stephanie's like, you didn't see them in the foyer? Like what? And her mother had called the police. So there was also a police officer with her. And the police officer does like a radius like check, like looks through all the rooms, checks everywhere, looks outside, like goes to the piano. The piano has not been messed with. The little part where the keys like open up has not been messed with. And he says that there's even dust on the piano, like nobody's played it in days. And at this point, Stephanie is really freaked out, so is her little sister, and they're like begging their mother to like not stay in this house. Their mother doesn't really know at this point like whether or not her daughters are like just freaking out or what. But she also has noticed some like weird things happening, some things missing in the house, and she decides to start house hunting for a different house. A few days later, their neighbors move out, and they still hear some scratching noises, and they decide to start leaving because their mother also apparently has seen the white figure at this point. And so they decide to start looking for a different house because they keep hearing some noises at the in the other house. Another disclaimer, this is about to get a lot scarier, so if you are younger and you haven't already not stopped watching this video because of my previous stories, you need to stop watching this right now. Be responsible, be an adult, be a big kid, and stop watching this because this is about to get really freaky. So, after their mother decides to start house hunting again, some weirder stuff starts happening. So at one point, Stephanie is home alone. At this point, they have found another place to live, but they haven't put down rent or anything. So they're still kind of starting to move out of this weird, freaky place that they're living in. And at one point, Stephanie falls asleep on the couch. She wakes up to the sound of a giggling little girl. And the little girl is giggling, and she thinks that her sister is home from daycare, and her mom is home. So she gets up and she goes upstairs, and she's asking Mom, are you home? And starts yelling for her little sister, and the little girl is giggling in her little sister's room. So she decides to go into the little sister's room and be like, why are you giggling? What's going on? Where's Mom? In her little sister's room, there is nobody there. But there is something really weird. So her little sister's room is up near the laundry room, but it's also the right side of the wall borders where the wall against the other part of the house that's split in two would be. Against that wall there is a chair against the wall, and above the chair there is a doll that she has never seen before. It's a porcelain doll, and there's a knife through its head. And above it, there's words scrawled in red that say, "You need to leave this house." At this point, Stephanie is terrified. She screams, she runs down the stairs, runs out of the house with her phone, and decides to call her mother and the police. When her mother and the police get back, they do not find the doll or the chair or anything. They do find red footsteps going down the stairs into the piano, but they don't find any words or anything scrawled across the walls. At this point, Stephanie's mom is really, really freaked out, and she decides not to stay at this house anymore. She decides to take her two daughters and that wasn't supposed to happen. Hold on, let me just fix this. And she decides to, what? I think my mouse, do you guys ever have this problem where your mouse just stops, disappears and stops working and starts taking over your horse? I guess a ghost is haunting my Star Stable now. But anyway, she decides to not stay at this house anymore until they are completely moved out. They're supposed to be moved out by the end of the week, and I think that that day was Wednesday. So she decides to start living with a friend of theirs. They start moving everything out to their friend's house, the stuff that they need, and decide to come back for the rest of the stuff, their furniture and everything later. So it is Friday. They're almost completely moved into the house. They just need their furniture and some of their kitchen stuff. And so they decide to bring a U-Haul truck, and their friend comes with them to move everything out. When they come inside, everything is gone. At first, Stephanie's mother thinks that the landlord decided to take their stuff before they were completely moved out and their lease was completely up, because it was supposed to be up Friday. But as they're looking around the house, trying to make sure nothing was left, and trying to find their appliances, they find all the appliances upstairs in the rooms, and the rooms that they had left empty. So in Stephanie's room, in her mother's room, in her little sister's room, there's the kitchen appliances are up there, all of the couch, love seat, everything is up there, bookshelves with a whole bunch of books in them. It's everything was literally just teleported up to those rooms. They're really freaked out at this point. It's going to take them a little bit longer to move out. And as they're moving out, they start seeing red footsteps. And red footsteps on the walls and on the ceilings. And it's almost like it's blood. So they decide to take as much as they can in the first trip down the stairs, with their friend. I think they take most of their kitchen appliances and like one couch. They leave the bookshelf and everything else, and they leave this house. And they said that they never stepped foot in this house again. And after that day, they did some research on the house, and they found out that the previous people who lived in their side of the house before it was split in two, I think it was before they were split in two, not on their side of the house, but before it was split in two, the previous owners, before the owners that owned it now, had passed away because they were murdered by some, I don't remember who she said they were murdered by, but they were murdered by somebody, and they had passed away, and the piano that they had been theirs originally, and it was the only thing not taken by the family members of the house that had owned it previously. So that is my scary stories and the origin of my scary stories. I hope you guys enjoyed our training video. We trained up 2 of our horses to 2 upper levels. So thank you guys so much for joining my training video, and I hope you guys really enjoyed my ghost stories. Please like, please subscribe, please go follow me on Instagram at Zaria.nightforest. Please. I am really loving all the support that we're getting, but I would really like some more followers, and I would really like some more support on my Instagram page. Thank you guys so much for watching my videos, and I hope you guys have a great spooky Halloween. Bye, guys.